several of our panel of experts. Tonight we'll be discussing economics. And we have the great pleasure of having Bill Barnes, one of our professors here of economics at the University of Maryland, and Stephen Fisher, who works for the Federal Reserve Bank up in Seattle. And so they're both going to describe what economics is from their point of view, help you connect with that as maybe something you might want to do. And that'll take about 30 minutes or so. And then there'll be a 30-minute question and answer period for you to ask questions and try to explore, is this something you see yourself doing? So please keep your attention to our panelists, and Professor Barnes will help us out.
Okay. How are you doing? Good? Got one more day, right? 1 or 2 more days. We got fall break. So tonight I thought we would start out by just giving you a sense of what the econ major is, and then I'll go into a few of the things that we have teed up in terms of questions that you may have about economics, and then we'll continue the conversation. You can ask more questions. So just really quickly, of course, if we go into detail on why I got into economics, I'll just hint a little bit at that, and then talk a bit about the econ major here, and why I think it's a neat major, why I think it actually is very useful in terms of your long run building the skills you need to be out in the world, and we'll go from there. So for me, I started actually in engineering school, and this was in 1989, way back in Worcester, Massachusetts, on the East Coast. And just because my high school teacher said, my high school advisor told me essentially that, well, you're good at math, so you should be an engineer, right? This is typical in high school, I think, that can happen. I didn't know anything about engineering though. So before I knew it, I was in an engineering setting, and I sort of, to be honest, and apologies to the engineers in the room, in that particular place, it was really sort of myopic, sort of narrow for me. It was cool because it was interesting. Engineering was challenging. I sort of felt at home a little bit, but there was a big piece of it. It's like, wait a second, this is way too confining. I can't do this. So within a month, I pretty much knew I was in the wrong place. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out what I was going to do. Transfer engineering school, what do I do? So I started taking economics courses as part of, in a way, the core. And all of a sudden I realized, okay, this is interesting. This is math, that skill, but then it's also about problems that are bigger, social problems, people. So I started to feel in the back of my head, maybe I'll go in that direction. So it was a little footnote. I kept on sticking with engineering though. I transferred out of this engineering school. I ended up at the University of New Hampshire on the East Coast. And eventually, after thinking about it for about 3 straight semesters, I was like, okay, I'm out of engineering. And I switched my major, not to economics, but to philosophy. And from that point, my dad was joking on it. Basically joking about how I was going to be a hopper, because of philosophy, etc. But I knew, I guess, in the back of my mind, I knew I could cobble it together with other things, so econ was part of it. So what I started to do was pick up economics courses, pick up the math courses. I did philosophy because I wanted to learn how to think and how to write. And, I didn't know if I was going to go to law school, what I was going to do, but again, one was to sort of get a well-rounded otherwise education. So here you guys are too, and obviously, so you went to business school, so you were not in business school. Bottom line is, UP has that ability to train in this way too. So the point is, by the time I was a senior, I said, okay, I'm not doing philosophy, further, but maybe some of these other fields I've been studying, economics stood out. So by the time I was a senior, I kind of sort of knew I was going to try to go for grad school in economics. And so that's what I did. And so I had a minor in economics, and then eventually parlayed that into a PhD. And I have to say, I'm completely happy with that decision for lots of different reasons. So they'll include some of the things I'm going to mention about the major right now. But again, one of the things was it combines the math and the big picture thinking and the analytical thinking that you get when you're an undergrad in liberal arts. And then you go out there and you get to do this in the world. You actually get to do this. In the case of being an academic, it's not doing it in the world, but it still is that neat combination, right, of kind of nuts and bolts math, and analytical thinking, like in philosophy, and I'm solving social problems. So for me, it was never, I never second guessed it once I was in. Grad school's a grind, you know, it's hard. Getting a PhD it's a long grind, but basically it's you know, it's just a matter of bearing down and research, you know, as a lot of people do. So at UP, we built the major recently, and now we have a minor in economics, and basically it's getting better and better. We're adding more and more courses in. So our econ major, I think, is good and it's getting better. So what would you do if you were an econ major at UP? Well, you take some core courses beyond these principles courses you're in. I told you in my class, obviously. Econometrics is a core course that a lot of people are scared of. But if you dig in, it's great. It gives you all these skills. You know, it's the art of using statistics in economics. So that's one of our core middle courses. Then we have intermediate macroeconomics, intermediate microeconomics, and then all the upper division courses, and I'm part of at least 3 of these courses. Environmental economics, teaching a course in the spring called Economics and Metrics for Sustainability, which is a novel new course that is on textbook work. Income inequality, comparative economics, sports economics, Jim Seals, some of you know, he's great in that course. Public finance, development economics, international economics, and financial markets and institutions. So all these courses are part of the sequence to get a major. So let me now just segue a little bit to what you would do. Because this is what people say. It's like, what do I do? You know, with an econ major. I mean, the short answer is, you know, a lot of people major in econ, but they don't actually end up becoming an economist. You know, if you want to become an economist, obviously, you really do have to pursue further work. If you do that, it's great. It's really interesting. I don't know if some of you saw in my course, that economists actually, as a profession, are strangely enough, you know, it's stressful in class a little bit. You know, they make good money, and the stress is low once you get the skills going because it's empowering. So economists, as they do their job in the world, actually have a lot of power, and it's actually a low-stress job. Interestingly, and we can talk a little bit about what they do in a moment. But let me just say that if you major in econ and you couple it up with another major or a minor or something like this, accounting, for example, you are building these analytical skills. You're building this ability to think, to write, and to use, let's say, graphs and statistics. And I guarantee that half the room here, we are going to be symbolic analysts out there. You end up in front of a laptop, and you end up, if you've got a decent middle class job in the world, you end up using symbols. It includes language, letters, you know, but it also includes numbers. And that's why econ majors, even though they don't actually end up becoming economists, they're often number 1. And so they take the LSAT. It's true that they're number 1 in the LSAT when they go to law school. They get the best scores. When they go to med school, they get good scores. You know, it's because they learn how to think. The training is very, very good. And so a lot of jobs are ultimately good training. Econ is good training for a lot of jobs ultimately. So, you know, for example, not only law, but also healthcare, government work. Obviously, we have the Fed here, but lots of different government work involves economists. Obviously, anything in business, economics is very relevant. So again, it really is a good discipline in the sense that it teaches you how to think critically. And statistics and econometrics are maybe the most nuts and bolts part of the training. So, let me say it this way. If you dig into people's background, university president, or let's say CEO, you look back, what's their degree? It's very common that the degree is an econ degree. Economists tend to become successful over time because they know how to think, they can think out of the box, you know, they're not as narrowly trained sometimes, and hence they get promoted, right? So, it's interesting. I have a bunch of statistics on this to back this up, but I'll hold off on that for a moment. Just a quick note: if you are interested in the pay, it's relatively good. You know, econ can be a good field in terms of pay. The median pay for economists right now, 2010, is $90,000. So that's pretty good. You know, a lot of times you crack over, obviously, $100,000. So, you know, I would tell you if you're mildly intrigued, you should follow that, follow your instincts. If you're interested a little bit, then keep on going. Give it a shot, and follow your nose. Because it might lead you to someplace interesting. It gets better, not worse. It's like learning a language. The more you get into it, the more interesting. I would say if you don't want to be doing it for the money. That's not good. You don't want to be doing it because your parents say, hey, I want you to be an economist. Without anyone understanding that. But the bottom line is you should follow your instincts. And one last thing, I'll sort of pass the time for a minute. When it comes to the initial shock of econ, I think for undergrads, I'm sort of talking to the classical leader right now as well. I think the initial shock is, whoa, lots of graphs and lots of numbers, and ooh, it's a little theoretical too. It's not quite as cut and dried as accounting. I'm a little bit mystified. That often happens, right? But if you can get over it and get through it and study hard, bear down, it ultimately can become a very rewarding discipline, as I said. And so I would say to you guys, don't give up. Don't be afraid. Dig in, study. Don't be afraid of the math and economics. Because again, people do well in life because they dig in and learn the language. One way to conclude this would be, it's interesting, like I'm out in the bar, drinking with my wife and friend, and a lot of times people say, people think economics are weak. That's sort of true. But people will have sort of an interesting reaction. Say someone next to you drinking, what do you do? I'm an economist. The reaction is sort of bimodal. It's like, it's either, oh, I hated economics as an undergrad. That course was so hard. Or that course was mystifying. Or it's the other one. It's like, oh, economics is really interesting. Of course, I try to be that person that makes it interesting as a teacher. But I would say to you that one of the things that's interesting is that it definitely becomes more interesting. If you think it's interesting now, there's no doubt that over time it'll get more interesting. Why? Because it's on the front page of the news every day. It's really a very relevant discipline. So when I'm in the bar, people will say, oh, that was a tough course, or oh, that was really great, I loved it. But then the next question will be, so what do you think? What do you think about the economy? What do you think about what's going to happen? So it's really cool in that sense. You get to be this sort of worldly philosopher, and people ask your opinion, you have some status because of the discipline. It's rewarding in that sense. So my point there is, I guarantee you're 30 years old. I bet, 100%. But most people will think, oh, econ. It'll sort of be like, I'm glad I really, really studied. It's like, oh, now that I'm seeing it so much in the world, maybe I should study really harder. So I'm just saying, follow your nose and bear down on the economy. Give it a good chance. And I hope some of you get interested. So if you are interested, I would love for you to come talk to me about it. And of course, that's obviously other places.
Good evening. Is that better? Okay. My name is Stephen Fisher. I've been with the Federal Reserve for 13 years. I work for the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, out of the Seattle branch. And when I was in college, when I started, I wanted to get into radio and television broadcasting. In fact, that's how I paid my way, much of my tuition was working at 2 commercial radio stations through those 4 years. Pretty good gig, went to see hot games for free, sat in the media level, got to go down on the football field, got to go in the locker room, and I thought this was pretty cool. Then I started to talk to others in the field, and probably about a year and a half into my studies, I thought, maybe I should widen my scope a little bit. My thought was I might get myself into a niche and maybe might not be as marketable as what I would hope down the line. But I still had a strong desire for communications and that kind of thing. So I went the route of public relations, although I didn't have a strong desire to work for a pure public relations firm. But I thought my skill sets and that I'd be okay. So that's the route I took. And it took a few years before I landed at the Fed and really thought, okay, if I could have drawn up a job description for myself, this would kind of be it. And so I've been at the Fed, as I said, for 13 years. I work in our Public Information and Economic Education Department. I do a lot of outreach on behalf of the Fed. Sometimes it's face-to-face public speaking, as I'm doing now. Sometimes it's media relations. It can be speaking to congressional staffers and just a whole wide range of things. Needless to say, working at the Fed, I do interact with economists, and as Bill was relaying, that we certainly have practicing economists. The Fed is probably the largest employer of economists in the country, I would think. Every reserve bank, which there are 12, has a research department, and all of our economists are in San Francisco. And there's a couple of economists that actually split time between their economic research, and they do some public outreach as well, and those are the two that I most interact with. And so, to Bill, I thought Bill's comments were right on the mark when he was talking about even if you don't major or pursue a PhD, for example, in economics, and you get a 4-year degree, whatever discipline you come out of, it predisposes you a bit to the way you see the world, the way you process information, and the way you problem solve. And we have a lot of folks in the Fed. I work with folks that have a 4-year degree in economics, and they'll probably never go on to get anything further than that. But they certainly think different than I do, and they process things differently than I do. And I can tell you that having an economics degree is highly desirable, and not just within the Fed. I've known other folks that have had an economics degree and have prospered, whether it's in a field that you may not connect with economics or not. And it all gets back to a need to have certain people to process information certain ways, and whether you're a sociologist or an economist or somewhere in the middle, there's a place for everybody. So for myself, as I said, my background is in public relations, and I have been downsized. I have been outright fired, if you can imagine that, me fired. Who would do such a thing? But no matter what your background, if you have the skill set and you like what you're doing, and if you're in economics because you like it, you'll overcome whatever is thrown at you throughout your career. The skills and strengths that I bring, that I feel I have to bring to work each day. When I first read a question that was provided here, I thought about conflict management. And I don't mean to imply that the workplace is hostile where I work, because it's not. But one of the things that is most important is conflict management. And I don't care what your degree is in, if you can't communicate and resolve things in an adult way, if you will, and keep a working relationship with those above you and below you and on par with you, it's going to make your job difficult. And along with that, and I'm not saying this because I'm from a communications background, but to be able to articulate concisely and accurately what your thoughts are is so important. And if you major in economics, and I mean you just have that down pat. You still have to communicate your thoughts and your reasoning and the whys and what fors as to the decisions that you're making, and to be able to back it up with data, as opposed to just saying, well, I think, and going on with a comment. Even what I do, which isn't necessarily data-driven a lot of times, you have to have justification for the course you're taking when questions are asked. My job, I mentioned earlier, is if I had a description of my job, it's what I would have described before I took it. And one of the things I like most about it, and one of the things that really is a fit for me, and a lot of people have it within the Fed, at least in my general area, is autonomy. And to be able to work without a lot of oversight, you earn that as the years go by. But I work in Seattle. My boss is in San Francisco. Two people that report to me, one's in LA and one's in San Francisco. And other people I interact with, they're in other areas most of the time. They're not in front of me. And so the autonomy to come and go as I please, it seems like mostly I'm coming though, rather than going, is important to me, and there's that feel of flexibility. At the same time, and you'll experience this at some point, and it's certainly not unique to me or anybody else. I find it a challenge to disconnect from my work at times. I'll use a common, simple economic term, opportunity cost. And oftentimes I find myself on a Sunday afternoon going, if I check my emails, I got a load of them, spend a couple hours doing that, I won't be so uptight tonight. I won't be uptight on the way into work in the morning, and I'll be able to get to those things that I really desire to do, as opposed to going through email. And so I'm constantly weighing that. It seems like it's okay, if I sneak in a little work during off hours, what will that mean to me during, quote, normal working hours? And so with the autonomy does come some responsibility that your work isn't necessarily always at the office. It can come home. So whether you're an economist, a practicing economist, or your major is just in economics, and you're doing something else in the business field, know that it's not going to change after you graduate. What you're experiencing now here in college, bringing work home with you, if you will, it'll continue. I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. We have about 30 minutes remaining for you to ask questions of our panelists, anything that you're curious about their workday, the type of things that you have on your mind to ask. And you can pass through the microphone if you like. If not, just speak up loud so we can hear you, and Bill can help. Just raise your hand and call it if you have a question.
Yeah. No, yeah, well, sorry, it's a good question. When I graduated from the University of Calgary, I knew I needed a break. So I took off. I went to Japan. Didn't know anything about Japan or Japanese. And I taught English. And any of you can do this. Everyone knows this. It's still in place. Japan is very accommodating of this. As long as you have an undergraduate degree, you can go there. It's a little bit of an art to get the job in advance, but you can even go there without a job. You can easily teach English and do well, so to speak, have a nice life. And this relates to this point I'm making. I have to say it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. No questions. Because once I got out of the country, back to big picture thinking, I realized, wow, I mean, if you're in the U.S., you are subject to all the rules, the media, and everything that is within the U.S. Cultural rules, everything. Get out of the country for a while, especially in places not your backyard, like no disrespect to European countries, but it's sort of a little backyard. So if you go someplace a little further out of the box, like Asia or a developing country, it really is a stretch. It's good for your head. It made me, it just made me realize, wow, I don't know anything. You know, and this is typical of life. You know, you think you know something, and then you dig in, and you realize, wow, you got lots of work. You should see it as not as a thing that overwhelms you, but as a thing that sort of motivates you. You know, okay, let's dig in more. So that happened to me. I was there for about 2 months, and I remember calling my parents and saying, Mom, Dad, this is the process of breaking, breaking from the parents and everything else. I'm not coming back. My dad wanted me to go to grad school. There's pressure on me a little bit. He's like, you should go to grad school. Don't go way too long. I'm like, sorry, no, I'm staying. I'm staying for at least 1 more year. So I started to delay the trip back to the U.S. to go to grad school. At the same time, I was too lazy to apply to grad school the first year. You know, so all these things. So it was a 3-year stint. By the time I was done, I knew a bit of Japanese, and that became how I got into all these grad schools from Japan. In PhD in econ without a major, minor in econ. Partly I'm convinced because I sat in that room, my little apartment, and I wrote out this application essay literally for weeks and weeks and weeks. My roommate was making fun of me, Bill as well, actually. And he would make fun of me because I was spending so much time on this. But what I wrote in that essay is I used the big picture sort of epiphany I had getting out of the country, the Japan experience, to then describe how what I was going to do in grad school. So I sort of became a comparativist. Right? That's why I teach this comparative econ course. So that was a detour until I went to grad school at the age of 25. And then grad school, as I said, it's a slog. And I was in South Bend, Indiana for 8 years doing that PhD, which is average for economics, by the way. A lot of people in science that graduate 5 years PhD. So it's very typical in econ. You gotta go for. You can stretch out. Some people, English tends to be a 10-year trip. So by the time I was done, I was ready for work, and I came straight here. I came straight to this job. So I landed in Portland. You guys feel this too, I'm sure. This is a special place. As soon as I was here, I was like, okay, I'm never moving. This is a great town. So I'm happy. You guys are great. It's a great environment. I feel the love. But I would just advocate that, don't let your parents tell you have to do this or you have to do that. Follow your nose. When you're in your 20s, it's a pick-me-up culture. The U.S. lets you get away with it. Go away for a while. You come back. If you're tempted to go abroad for a couple of years and do something different, it's okay to experiment. The job market's a little tight right now, which is scary, but ultimately these things, these stretches, these ways to get out of the box are going to probably, in the U.S. context, they'll probably be rewarded rather than curriculum. So, but again, once I was in the PhD program, it was real straight and narrow. It's like, get your PhD, go to the job market, take your job. So,
Any thoughts on behavioral economics? Maybe a growing area of economics?
I'm wondering if we could share this possibly. My general thought on economics is that it's still, primitive physics, really. I mean, economics has a long way to go to be a truly, let's say, compelling discipline that really captures what's going on. And economists tend to be very, I'll just put it bluntly, standard economists can be pretty arrogant. They'll assume a stripped-down model of rationality. If you guys take microeconomics, you'll see that there's sort of a stripped-down version within your microeconomics of human behavior that assumes that people are sort of rational. They want to maximize bang per dollar. And it's a very compelling model, but the plain truth of the matter is, no matter how you dice and slice it, in my view, people are never going to quite behave this way. So the closer that econ gets to what people's brains really do, as we make decisions, the better off the economy is. So there has been vast improvement in the last, let's say 10 years in particular, in economic modeling experimental economics, behavioral economics, economics that sort of observes people in the real world as they make their decisions and then extrapolates from that. So that's a general point. So borrowing from psychology is necessary. Back to being a comparativist, I think culture matters, right? How do you figure out what culture is? Well, you might not be able to put it in a mathematical formula. I mean, just go to Japan for a while, steep in it, and then let that guide you. So anthropology, I think, is perfectly acceptable as something that can help econ. So to the extent that econ borrows from other disciplines, pulls it in, behavioral economics pulls in psychology, I think that's great. So, that's a general. I don't know if the Fed is doing behavioral economics in big detail.
Yeah, there may be some economists that, you know, have written papers and that. I know out of San Francisco Fed, I don't recall it being an ongoing area of study in that, but it's just to parlay off Bill's comments. I think when a lot of people in the general public hear economics, they immediately think things like GDP and that kind of thing. And I don't think there's, I think the thought process and appreciation for we as individuals, we are just woven into this fabric of economics every day, whether we realize it or not. And I don't think, you know, especially, you know, as at high school, I don't know how many of you took economics classes and that, but you know, to get students to realize that you know, you're living in an economic world every day and you're making economic decisions, and what the rationale for those decisions can certainly be debated and that, but I think at times that can be a spark to students and that you know, economics is all around.
Yeah, I would sort of also say that, you know, as you start thinking about this, get more curious and dig in undergrad is a great time, right? Because you're supposed to think about these big, deep questions. And yeah, you know, have fun on the weekends. But, you know, make sure you get with your friends now and again and ask them deep questions. You know, have fun with that. Because that's part of undergrad, too. You know, it's actually sort of geeking out on some of these problems, you know. Talk about the election coming up. You know, get yourself in those moments. Join a club that actually engages stuff like that. So I'm sort of basically, one way to say the way I approach things, I'm just issue driven, right? So the question motivates me, right? Not the discipline, right? So if econ isn't seemingly answering a particular question, then I start digging, right? I'll start looking at other disciplines. So some of you know this. For me, the question is, why is the future taking so long? You know, given our environmental looming issues that we have, including carbon and what we're doing to the atmosphere, what's happening? Why are we taking so long? Is it just because we have prices wrong when it comes to, let's say, properly pricing gasoline? You know, sort of like now we're getting cigarettes right? Or is it deeper than this? Is it behavioral stuff? Is it just kind of common sense, you guys might say? Is it just it takes time for people to change? Habits matter, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You know, what is it that's driving this? And as I dig into that question, I'm getting into the psychology of it. I'm getting into all sorts of things, the history of social change, because that's the question for me. How do we? What I mean by how do we get to the future faster is how do we go from Earth A, which is obviously, in my view, look at the science on it, not sustainable. And how do we go to Earth B that's going to run for a really long time, you know, where things are more sustainable? And again, econ has some answers to this, and it's very powerful as a discipline. It's definitely the queen of the social sciences, so to speak, in terms of its status. But man, there's a lot of other things within the other social sciences that can help us maybe answer that question a little better. So narrowing down a little bit more, you know, within that, I'm into solar, I'm into energy, clean technology. How do we drive clean technology? Are we going to use government incentives alone, or is it other things? So again, being question-driven is important. What's your issue, and then go after that issue. And you may not just have one discipline as you're doing it. You're going to look to other disciplines. So as an undergrad, I would encourage you guys to think of some of the, lately some universities are starting to address education this way. Instead of being discipline-based, they're changing to problem-based. There are just a few now that are doing this, right? Where, you know, your major, so to speak, is not economics. Your major is essentially basically climate solutions, something along those lines. Your major is, healthcare solutions. You sort of have the problem center you, and then everything else kind of revolves around the issue, the problem. So if you guys have something like that in your head, I would suggest, write your papers about that issue. Be consistent across classes, and that may lead you in a neat direction. It could become your dissertation, for example, if you really want to take it up a notch and go to grad school. So.
Any other questions about that?
So, Ray, major, so what is the potential of real estate?
Yeah, so if you do want to become an economist, right, I think the answer is you're going to go for, typically, so you'll get a master's in economics. So let's say you're an undergrad and you're majoring in econ, right? And you're going to get a job out there in the world. Well, it's very common that the econ degree helps you get a job that doesn't have economist in the title necessarily, but that is that's very related to your ability to analyze numbers. For example, let's say you got into econometrics and you can do statistics. If you can do statistics, you have a lot of bargaining power, really, because people tend to shy away from it. They get scared, so they don't take it up a notch, they don't bear down, and they allow themselves to shy away from it or avoid it. So that's basically the common reaction to the people that actually do the statistics. Dig in, take the class, do well in it, or do your best, and then you take another class in statistics, do some math along the way. You're going to be able to get better paying jobs. So I'll just list out, just for example, I was, curious about this myself for tonight. So here are social science related jobs, and here are the titles, right? None of them are economics. This is after, it says experience median pay. So this is 2012 to 13 pay scale college salary report. So it's basically reporting on what the salaries are out there for the social science majors in the U.S., the whole thing. And the number one pay listed here for social science, the title is management consultant. And pay is $104,000, and the common major, economics. Number two, operations director, $99,000, common major, economics. General operations manager, $77,000. That's number three. Economics is the major. Marketing manager, $73,000. Economics is the major. Financial analyst, $71,000. Economics is the major. Supply chain analyst, $62,000. Economics is the major. So all the first six are economics. Then comes one that's sociology, and then the next are economics. So out of the top 20 jobs, if you're coming out of social science, 12 of them are economics. And again, all the titles are not economists, but they're related fields, right? So realistically, coming out, I'd say that the realistic salary you get with an econ major, maybe coupling it up with some other things, minor that's like a little more nuts and bolts, like accounting possibly. It's maybe could be $50,000 to $75,000. Not too bad, right? So yeah, and if you look at accounting versus econ versus finance versus all that, econ actually typically comes out on top, just a little. But it's not the case that the economists, the econ majors are actually going to necessarily do worse than the econ majors. So we could dig into particular jobs, but those are just examples. This is an example of jobs. And sometimes it sounds sort of dry, actually. Again, I just want to stress, once you dig in, the cool side of it is solving these problems, right? Those little analytical puzzles, you're solving your problem. Okay, this little town needs we're going to put a soda tax in this town because we finally agree that soda is actually as bad as tobacco when it comes to this high fructose corn syrup. It's causing diabetes and all these things. Who gets to decide on what the soda tax is and how to make that, let's say that local government, municipality or city, put all that in place? Guaranteed it's an economist. It's the economist doing this. So the problems with any econ that you're solving typically are fun. They're concrete and interesting. But you need the skills. So you sort of need to obviously bear down on the classes. I don't know if that helped a little. Yeah.
Is there a, say you're a minor or another major course?
A good minor or major that goes with economics? Yeah. Well, I think, to be honest, I think it depends on you a little bit, right? If you think you want to go to law school, then econ's a great major, as I said, right? So, one thing I would say is that what I see happening a lot of times with you guys lately is that there's this kind of, if I double major, it's doubling attractive. Or if I double major with a minor, it's going to be double and a half attractive. Like the employer's going to think that this is doubly great. What I would tell you is that, to me, it seems that there's a little bit of, I don't know what it is going on, but there's it's over the years I see people, they come to my office, undergrads, my advisors come to my office, and they're like, I got a double major. And so what I often do is I'll say, well, wow, and what's your goal? So we start with that, and then it's kind of like, it's often the case I'll say, well, why don't you major and then maybe minor, and then leave some room for some other courses that may not turn into another minor or major. Follow your nose. So that's the first thing I say, is just trust yourself on this. If you want to go to law school, remember, you got to learn how to write. You got to write, learn how to write. So philosophy isn't out there. Econ with a philosophy minor. I mean, if you look at Europe, they have this typical program where there are a lot of successful politicians. Philosophy, political science, and economics. So those combinations might make sense for someone going to law school. If you want to do business, I think accounting, it is true. Accounting is the language of business. And economists, you see our textbooks, actually, the intro book, there's not a lot of accounting in there. Not really. So, there's the macro GDP accounting, but that's not accounting. So minor in accounting if you're going to go into business. Or finance, but finance isn't quite the same thing, obviously. Those are realistic. Operations, right? All those make, they make good sense. So maybe I'll flip it back for a moment. We're up here talking so much. What about you? What do you think? Yeah, just out of curiosity. And if you ever are even slightly serious about going into academia, like being a professor, I wouldn't reject that idea. Being a teacher, it's pretty good work. The benefits are pretty good, and the autonomy is great. You get the summers. This our semester ends here, right? So then we have this long stretch in the summer that's really ours. I think people tend to come here, trying to do research in the summers, we do other things, but there's a lot of autonomy in that, and it's real nice. So if any of you, I mean this sincerely, if any of you are serious about going further and pursuing a master's or a PhD in econ or any other discipline related to business, don't be shy. You should come and talk to me, talk to other colleagues. It's actually not a bad. It's not a bad way to go. So, out of curiosity in the room, how many people here are accounting, thinking accounting? And how about finance? And how about tech ops or whatever? What's it called? OTM, that's right. OTM. What else? What do we leave out?
Yeah.
Marketing. Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. We just got a new marketing professor. Very excited about that. That's interesting. Anyone else? Anyone in liberal arts? As a sort of a double major? What was that? German. Yeah, one way to sum it up for me, I'm biased in this, is we're in a liberal arts college. Okay, you're in the business school, you need these core skills. That's great. You're going vocational a little bit by nature of being in business school. You're going to feel a little better about it. So it's like, okay, I'll get a job sort of thing. Some people in business, so get a job. But don't forget, who wins? The people that can think, the people that can write clearly. And so force yourself, if it's a little bit hard to do, for you, to write. Learn how to write. Learn how to think. Take a hard philosophy class. Take a hard liberal arts class. That is, it's going to train you and that kind of thing. Because that ultimately will help you do well, especially in the long run. So we have communications here next to us. I mean, the way you get promoted through time is you have people skills, you know. All these things, I think all these things come with staying a little bit broader at times. Okay? So accounting, yes, a bit narrow, vocational, a great skill to have, but couple it up with some bigger picture, let's say minors or majors. As I said, as you know, so econ is clearly a fairly theoretical and big picture discipline. So it gives you that too.
Other questions? I have one question for Steve, and that is, are there internship opportunities with the Federal Reserve in any way, shape, or form? And where do you think, global monetary policy is going in the sense of will governments, start working together to determine money flow and interest rates and those types of things?
Well, the latter question, I'll leave to Ben Bernanke. We do have internships. They're summer internships. If any of you are interested, they get posted out on the San Francisco Fed website. I don't know what the title is now, job opportunities or something along those lines. If that is something you want to pursue at the Fed, check relatively early. Don't wait till March or something because the process is probably close to being over by that time. Most of our internships are in San Francisco, just because that's where the head office is, and that's where most of the folks go. We have had over the last 3 years 2 interns at the Seattle branch for about 10 weeks, early June to late August time frame. So it is a little bit limited in Seattle. The Fed, there's actually a Federal Reserve office in Portland, but our offices have changed a lot over the years, and there's just not a lot of people there. It's very administrative in nature. We have some management, but there's no operations or anything like that there.
What time of year in San Francisco?
What's that?
What time of year in San Francisco?
San Francisco actually runs a little bit earlier than what we do in Seattle. They start in early June, and it was mid-August when they were done. I had we had an intern in the public information department that was based in San Francisco, but we thought it'd be a good experience because my department, the department I work in, is often remote, as I said, with personnel. He reported to me just to give him an experience of reporting to somebody that wasn't, across the hall from him and that. So they do a really nice job as far as bringing the interns in and just acclimating them to the Fed and just getting them woven into as a regular employee. And I know in our department, we try not to let them feel like an intern. We try to let them feel like, hey, you're here to help us. You have knowledge and skills that we might not even be aware of, and that. So from what I've seen in other companies and that, from our HR standpoint, who drives it, obviously, they do a great job.
Just to follow up on that, just because I'm curious too, what would be a concrete example of what an intern would be doing?
Well, it depends what department they're in. I mean, we have internships. I mean, but the Fed is like any other company. We have needs in not just you think monetary policy of the Fed, but we have event management, we have facilities, we have statistics, we have bank supervision and regulation, we have public information, and so it goes. The intern that we had in the public information department, we specifically went looking for somebody with marketing background this time around. Next year it might be somebody different, but we felt somebody that was pursuing a marketing degree would be of most benefit to us this summer, and so that's what we're looking for. Oh, and needless to say, our economics department is as well. I'll add on to this from an employment standpoint and from a career standpoint. If you graduate, for example, with a degree in economics and you're not sure whether you want to pursue, a graduate degree or maybe even a PhD, one good way to find out is if you can't get employed by the Fed is get a position as a research assistant. And after a couple of years, you probably have a pretty good feel for if that's the type of thing you wanted to do, or whether you wanted to branch out into some other kind of business environment that may not be economic specific.